Hello, my name is Troy David Phillips, and I am the General Store Manager here at Flashback Comics in Woodbridge, Virginia. I have been managing this store now for 6 years. Previously, I had managed comic book stores in the 1980s. I have had a wide, varied career, as many Northern Virginians do, but I've been comic collecting pretty much from the time that I could actually read. I've been a serious collector since about 1984 up to today. I have collected over 39,000 comics in my own personal collection, and I take a great delight in helping people actually complete their treasured collections here at the store on a daily basis. So here at Flashback, we have a wide variety of customers and clients. Now, sometimes people will simply walk in because they drove by and saw a comic book store and didn't know there was one in the area. Some of my customers have been with me for almost the entire 6 years that we've been in business, and they are themselves a very wide and varied selection of people. Many Washington area professionals, but also a lot of professional blue-collar electricians and plumbers, general contractors, the military, the government. They come from all walks of life professionally. Many of these people are parents with children themselves. Sometimes their children are also readers, and sometimes not. Sometimes the parents will bring me their children that are early readers, just getting into it. They all have something in common, though. They all love the combination of the graphic and printed mediums. So the words plus pictures, it's something that brings everyone, regardless of whether they are a fan of The Walking Dead, the comic that preceded the television series, or Batman, Superman, Captain America, Spider-Man, the superhero genre, the science fiction genre, the crime genre, the horror genre. There are really so many different genres, so many different types of things for people to read, and the readers themselves are reflective of that diversity. So I see a variety of ages, I see a variety of professional status, I see a variety of ethnicities and nationalities, as this is a fairly cosmopolitan area, and I delight in interacting with these people as they come in, sometimes every week, sometimes once a month, sometimes only 2 or 3 times a year. But again, it depends on who they are, and they are themselves a wide selection.
Hi, my name is Ryan Ridgway and I'm a Star Wars collector. My main focus is Star Wars action figures, but I also collect Lego, posters, artwork, statues, pretty much anything with a Star Wars logo on it, I'll buy it.
My name is James Thompson. I'm a collector. I collect comic books, art, figurines, statues, and Funko Pops.
I was introduced to Star Wars back in 1995 when I was 10 years old, and like any 10-year-old, I love toys. So the combination of Star Wars and toys was the perfect thing for me. So I mostly collected Star Wars action figures because, one, I could play with them, but as I got a little bit older, I decided to keep them in the box because they look amazing with the artwork on the card backs, them in their blister cards. They look in a really cool action pose, and sometimes once you take a action figure out of the package, you just can't stand it up, so it looks cooler in the package.
I collect comic books and art mostly because as a kid, I used to enjoy watching shows like Batman animated series and X-Men animated series. And the stories do provide and relate to different issues you experience when you grow up.
When I was 10 years old, I would get an allowance for doing chores around the house, so my parents really enabled my Star Wars collecting. So I got started with a collection called the Star Wars Action Fleet, which was the smaller vehicles with even smaller action figures. And with those, I could create Star Wars battles in my bedroom, and just for hours, I'd be able to play and create my own Star Wars stories.
I started collecting when I was a kid, but stopped as I got older, and then started again once I joined the Army, when someone recommended that I pick up a hobby instead of finding a habit.
So I really started off with the Star Wars Action Fleet vehicles, but then I moved into the action figures. One, because they were a little bit cheaper at $5 a piece, and I could buy 2 for the same price of a vehicle. So in '96, I really started collecting the action figures, and ever since then, I've collected over 500 Star Wars action figures individually, and that includes some ships as well, and some other larger types of models, but mostly action figures is the mainstay of my collection.
I've been collecting for at least 12 years continuously. My collection has grown pretty extensive with over 1,000 comic books, dozens of pieces of art, statues, Funko Pops, and figurines.
The most cherished piece of my collection isn't something that I actually purchased myself, and it's the original Star Wars soundtrack vinyl that my aunt found a few years ago in her basement. And what's significant about this is that my dad's name is actually written on the label. So when my dad was younger in 1977, my grandmother wrote my dad's name on the label so that people would know that this belonged to him. And so knowing that he listened to that record and I myself get to listen to that record now, it's pretty awesome, and it's the most cherished piece of my collection.
The most treasured part of my collection is actually a set within my collection. It's all of the first appearances of black comic book superheroes within Marvel or DC Comics.
About 20% of my collection is actually displayed throughout the house. The rest is in a spare bedroom that I have with a full walk-in closet that's filled to the brim. But most of my collection is focused in the living room on the mantelpiece or in a large bookshelf that I have. But I have it in the basement as well and also in the kitchen.
I display my collection by placing posters affiliated with other comic books on the walls surrounding the entire man cave, as well as putting figurines and statues and comic books on display on shelves and on TV stands.
Right now I'm collecting a line called the Vintage Collection, which is a modern take on those action figures from 1977 to 1983. So it includes all of what Disney has recently put out with new movies, comics, cartoons, and I just love the look of the collection and hopefully continue to collect it in the future.
In the future, I see my collection growing from where it's already at and eventually being passed on to my kids. Some items will be sold, some items will be new, but the collection itself will keep going with my kids in the future.